Hi, I'm Angela with Arteza. Today I'm going to be introducing some new products to you for our students and kids. Just like you, I'm an art teacher also, and I know how frustrating it can be going from place to place trying to get all of your supplies together. Let me assure you that Arteza.com is your one-stop shop for all of your back-to-school needs. We're going to begin with our double-sided color pencils, and I'm going to show you a few tips and techniques that we can use with them. The first thing we should talk about with colored pencils is how much pressure we want to use on them. So when we use a light hand and very light pressure, we're going to get a light shade on our paper. Not as much pigment is going to go down on the paper. We press a little harder. It's going to have a more medium tint, medium saturation. And when we get very hard, we're going to be burnishing our paper. And this basically compresses the tooth of our paper so that if we were to use another color on top of it, it's not really going to show up because there's nothing else for the pigment to grab onto. Next, we can make a gradient with just using the pressure. So we can start out very lightly, and I'm moving my hand very quickly, and I'm pulling my hand closer to myself. And as I'm pulling my hand closer, I am applying more and more pressure. See, it's getting darker here. And then just to fill it out a little bit more, I'm going to do the same thing. Going back, harder pressure, and lightening up the pressure as I go back to the top. Another thing that we can do with our colored pencils is layering. So let's do what we just did here, but in reverse. I'm going to start with more pressure, and I'm going to get lighter. Let's go over that a little bit more so we have a nicer, smoother transition. And then what I can do is take another color. Let's take a light blue. And I'm going to do the same thing in reverse, and we're going to have them overlap in the center. You kind of have this nice ombre effect going on. And of course you can apply more pressure so that the colors look more saturated. So that's kind of layering with a gradient. If we want to just do a regular layer, we can plop our color down here. Let's make a nice little X. And then we can put our color on top. Now you notice that I'm going back and forth in the same direction. That's fine normally, but if you want to fill an area of color, the best thing to do instead of just going back and forth, because we're going to see some starting and stopping areas, is just to kind of move across your paper in little ovals or circles so that it becomes nice and even. Just like that. And depending on what you're drawing, you might want to follow the curvature of whatever that is. And let's say that you have something like some waves in the ocean that you're making. For this, you might want to follow along with the direction of the lines that you've already created to get some more movement in there. You'd want to follow the direction of the lines that you've already created to add more movement. Another technique that we can use is hatching. And this is quite simple. You're just going to make parallel lines like that. And then we can add to that and do some cross hatching, which it's kind of like you're making a lot of tic-tac-toe grids. And you will just keep layering those lines And you can see how the more layers of lines we have, the darker it's going to get. And if you're having trouble making lighter lines or lighter strokes, you can push your hand to the end of your pencil like that. And if you're trying to make darker strokes, you can get closer to the edge of your pencil, the tip, and be able to apply more pressure like that. Another thing that we want to do is when we are using our pencil, so that we don't have to sharpen it every 5 seconds, make sure that you are coloring and rotating your pencil in your hand every so often. You'll also get a nice point eventually. Hatching is a type of way to shade in whatever object you're drawing. And when you're going to cross hatch, a lot of times we'll use this on still lifes or portraits, and just instead of just shading from light to dark, fully shading in, we're going to have more areas of space in between those lines. The next supply we're going to be using is our watercolored pencils. So let's grab a brush and our cup of water. Now the great thing about watercolored pencils is that the techniques that we use for our colored pencils apply, except watercolored pencils have one unique feature, and that is that you can blend them with water. Feel free to pause, rewind, fast forward, whatever you need to do, and then catch up to me when you're ready. You can be creative here. You don't have to draw exactly what I'm drawing. You can also switch up the colors. If you want to have a funky blue watermelon, go for it. And now the fun begins. So we get our paintbrush, add a little bit of water, get rid of the excess, and then we're just going to very lightly start blending. You can see how it just kind of smooths out, fills in all the little gaps in our paper, nice and even. And of course we can thin this out by adding more water to it. It's up to you. You can keep on working an area until you're satisfied with it. Like the colored pencils, these are great for kids of all ages and abilities. The watermelon. Let's take a look at this really awesome variety of crayons. We have pearl, metallic, neon, and glitter. Let's see what they can do. This is a pearl crayon that I'm using at the moment. Now let's get into our metallic. And let's check out some of our neon. And then let's move to our glitter. So hopefully you've learned some new ways to have fun with your kids and to spark their imagination. Remember, Arteza.com is your one-stop for all of your back-to-school needs. If you like this video, make sure to check out the others on our channel.